Hi, my name is Ed Diaz, and on today's video, we're going to show how to hook up a Roland V drum kit to the Roland Fantom G. What this will allow you to do is to record your drums easily inside the Fantom G in the sequencer. So basically what we're going to use is the V drums to trigger the internal drums of the Roland Fantom G. So this will make it very easy for you to go ahead and record drums, because sometimes playing drum parts on the keys can be kind of difficult, or playing drum parts on the dynamic pad bank can be kind of difficult. So if you have access to a Roland V drum kit, this is probably the easiest way to go ahead and put drums inside your sequence. So with the help of my friend Dan Glassell, drummers, we're going to show you how to do this today. All right, so please sit back and enjoy, and I hope you have a good time.
First, hit the Instrument button under the Drum Kit tab. In the menu that pops up on the screen, hit F4 to select Control. Now hit F5 to select MIDI. Pressing F1 brings you to the General MIDI tab. This screen shows you what keys on your keyboard are attached to what drums. You can see that as I hit the rim or head of the drum, it'll bring it up on the screen so I can see the key that's attached to it. The hi-hat has its own MIDI screen, which can be selected with F2. On this screen, we can see the hi-hat has 5 different MIDI triggers: open and closed bow, open and closed edge, and pedal. Initially, when me and Ed were experimenting, I wasn't getting any sound out of my edges. This is how we figured out the problem. There was nothing mapped to D1 or A#0 on the keyboard. Now we're going to hit Setup to show you more MIDI options. Hit F1 to bring up the MIDI screen. These are all of the MIDI channels that your drum set puts out. Only channel 10 has anything to do with the actual drum set. Everything else is for the extra songs that the kit can put out, so me and Ed turn them off. There's one more useful thing we can set, and we can get there by hitting F3. The hi-hat note number determines how hard you have to press the pedal down to switch from an open hi-hat trigger to a closed hi-hat trigger. A setting of 0 will always result in a closed hi-hat sound, and a setting of 127 will always result in an open hi-hat sound. The manual recommends setting this to 80, but like a proper drummer, I have selected an entirely different setting.
Okay, now that we have our V drums hooked up to the Fantom, let's go ahead and make the necessary setting changes inside the Fantom G. Let's press the menu button, and now press F2 System. And now let's press F2 and go down to the MIDI section in the System Setup screen. Now I'm going to use my dial wheels. I'm going to use my cursor buttons that are on my dial wheel over here, and cursor down to remote keyboard switch. Make sure that is off. Receive program change. This needs to be on. It doesn't really need to be, but if my drummer wants to change some of the patches inside the Fantom G, he can do that very easily. But I want to make sure that Receive Bank Select is off, because if he changes the dial wheel on the V drums, it's going to change to a whole different bank in the drums, probably General MIDI, and we won't be able to do anything. Very confusing. So I'll go ahead and have that off. Receive exclusive messages from the V drums, or receive General MIDI messages from the V drums. I just have it off. You know, technically I could have off receive program change, and I would determine exactly what kits he plays, but we'll go ahead and live a little dangerous. Once I have that set, press F7, System Right, and now it's written into the keyboard. Now I can press F8, Exit. Now that I have those settings inside the Fantom G, let's go ahead and go to our studio, because we're going to want to write some music now. So I'll go ahead and press my studio mode right there. And there might be already a studio set up, but I'm going to go ahead and go to my studio list and just pick something. So we'll go ahead and just pick something. Doesn't really matter right now. Press F8 select, and as you see, I have a free studio set, so I can go ahead and make whatever I want, put whatever instruments I want in there. So let's call Dan over to the drums. All right, now that we have Dan, let's go ahead and get Dan to play a little bit of the drums. And if we have our settings correctly inside the Fantom G, we'll see MIDI part 10 light up. So go ahead and play just a little bit, Dan. There we go. So Dan's playing. He's triggering from the V drums. So let's go ahead and cursor over there, and let's go ahead and press F1 patch list. And go ahead and play a little bit, Dan. So right there we have him playing on that standard kit. Great. So we have Dan already in there. We picked a couple of kits already. And I'll go ahead and select one right in here. Now that we have it selected, let's see if we are able to record. So I'm going to go ahead and go into my song. If there's a song loaded up, go ahead and clear it out. So F1 song list. Delete the song, or let's go to another empty song. Great. And let's go ahead and press record. And let's put it maybe about 100. How's that, Dan? Okay. So right now we can go ahead and have it on wait note. Remember, normally when we have wait note on, that as soon as we touch the keyboard or our pedal, it'll start recording. Well, in this case, as soon as your drummer starts playing the drums, it'll start recording. Another thing we could do is we can go ahead and have it 2 measure count in as we normally do, or 1 measure count in. Okay, so let's go ahead and have it on wait note, and we'll let Dan come in when he wants. Also, we can go ahead and set the loop switch. We can turn it on if we want. We're going to turn ours on, but you don't need to. We could always just turn on end switch and have it automatically end after 4 bars. So we're going to go ahead and just have the loop switch on. We're going to go ahead and put the grid to 30-second notes because if you're playing the drum beats on the drums, you definitely get a lot more intricate fills and a lot better vibe, in my opinion, a lot better groove. So I'll put it on there so if we can have the quantize. And I think we're set to go. So let me turn up the volume a little bit so Dan can hear. Okay, now that we've recorded Dan in here, let's go ahead and press OK. And you see there is the MIDI phrase that was recorded using the V drums to trigger the drums. Let's go ahead and back it up and give it a listen. So you see that easily. Using the V drums, we can go ahead, rather than play the beats on the keys of the keyboard or on the dynamic drum pad. If you have V drums in your studio, you can use the V drums to easily recreate drum grooves and beats right into the Fantom G. Now that this is recorded, I can just go in very quickly, and we can go ahead and record as we normally would. So I can maybe go ahead and choose some kind of piano sound. Let's go ahead and use a EP. So we got that. Let's record. We recorded that. Great. Let's go ahead and put a bass sound in here. Let's find a bass, and we'll use one of my favorites, the 569, a 4-way bass. And I'll go ahead and drop my keyboard to octave because I'm using a 76. Let's try that. And as you see very quickly, we've created a nice little song using the V drums for our drums in the Fantom. Now, just a point to show you, the V drums are not being used at all in the audio. If you look at this picture here, you can see the outputs of the V drums aren't even connected to any kind of amplification or into the computer at all. So all the drums you're hearing are the Fantom G drums, the internal drums, but they're being triggered with the V drums. All right, great.